Good morning, everyone. It's Lee Henson, President and founder of AgileDad, and it's time for today's edition of the Daily Stand-Up. So without any further ado, let's get started. It's Friday, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. And I wanted to come to you with something, of course, that's agile, but not agile. I wanted to talk to you about the top 5 tips to help you better manage your time. Now, everyone knows that I'm a huge fan of GTD, Getting Things Done by David Allen. Fantastic book. If you haven't read it, you need to do so. But I wanted to talk to you about 5 things that will help you better get a hold of your time, things that'll help you find time throughout the day to be able to do things. So first, coming in at number 5, top 5 tips. So we're going to do it from 5 to 1. So coming in at number 5, reduce interruptions. So one of the things I found when we're working from home, or especially if we're working from a remote office here in the pandemic, is that we frequently get interrupted, whether it's an email or a phone call or a text or a chat or a Skype or whatever it is. We constantly have this chatter going on around us, and it causes us to constantly be disrupted. And if we don't prevent those interruptions, what we're going to quickly discover is that we spent all day chasing down those interruptions and we actually didn't get the core work done that we needed to get done. So, the very first thing we need to do to help us manage our time better is find a way to isolate the interruptions, whether it's telling ourselves we're going to check our email once every hour or once every 2 hours, or telling ourselves that we're only going to answer calls that come in that are urgent, or that we're only going to respond to people during a certain period during the day. We have to find ways to reduce the scale, scope, and timing of those interruptions so that we can stay focused so that we can get our real work done. Coming in at number 4 is one that's called know when to multi-thread. Now, a lot of people say multitask. I don't say multitask because I think it's almost impossible to truly multitask. I think that sometimes it's appropriate for you to stop what you're doing, take care of something else, and go back to doing something else. That's multi-threading. That's not multitasking. Multitasking would be trying to do both simultaneously, which I think is pretty much impossible. So even though I try hard to accomplish as many things as I can in a day, one of the things that I find is when I don't multitask and I try to multi-thread instead, that I can line things up in such a way that I can accomplish as many of them as I can in a pecking order, almost like a Kanban board, and I just do FIFO, first in, first out, knock those things out. And I think that sometimes you'll realize that, hey, this is going to make you more productive. And at the end of the day, you will have more time because you're getting things done in a timely fashion. Coming in at number 3 is understanding your capabilities. So let me explain. I think sometimes we commit to doing things that are outside of our comfort zone or outside of our ability to be able to complete those things. And I think that that's very harmful. I think that when we make those type of commitments, it carves into, because obviously, if we don't know what's going on or we've never done it before, we need to learn how to do those things. But at the same time, we need to time box those activities. And I feel like sometimes we want to learn and we want to put our best foot forward. So we put ourselves out there, and that cuts into our time significantly because we spend a lot of time researching how to do that activity instead of trying to take on something that we already know how to do. So my advice here is, I'm not discouraging you from learning new things. I want you to time box the activity that you do to try and learn new things. Figure out the best way to do it, figure out a time box, figure out the best way for you to apply. Because if you can time box that learning, then it's totally, totally worth your while. Coming in at number 2, plan your work. Amen, brothers and sisters. This is one where I tell people all the time, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? Now, I'm not saying you need a rigid plan. I'm not saying there's no point for inspect and adapt. I'm not saying there's no point to pivot. What I am saying is that if you set aside a solid 15 minutes, whether it's right at the end of your workday or at the very beginning of your workday, and jot down a plan of what you plan on doing that day. Choose the 1 or 2 things you hope to accomplish. Choose your increment for what you're trying to do, and play it out as a sprint if you need to. And what I can tell you is that's where you're going to find success. You're going to be able to achieve a lot more if you have a plan in place than you do if you don't. Um, a lot of times we like to be spontaneous, and that's great. But if you're trying to optimize your time, sometimes spontaneity is just not the way to go. Plan a route, plan a direction, figure out what you're going to do, and stick to that plan, right? Um, I will say, though, that you have to be careful, right? It was Eisenhower said, plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. So make sure you don't have a written plan for the next 6 weeks. Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until you punch them in the face, right? So plans are necessary. It's a necessary evil, but the art of planning is what's going to help you be successful. So there you go. And coming in at number one, my absolute favorite, I was waiting for this one: eliminate waste and reduce the unnecessary. I tell people all the time, if you can decide what you're not going to do, eliminate those things from your day, eliminate those things from your life. Say, hey, this doesn't make sense, right? Time box the things that are needed, but if you want to do some things that are enjoyable, I'm not saying skip out on them completely. What I'm saying is choose those things that are unnecessary and isolate them and put them in a chamber. And even if you time box and say, I'm going to time box the amount of time I spend doing pointless things, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or whatever your poison is, choose what you're going to do and isolate that time and time box it and do it. Do it as one of your achievable goals. And outside of that, you shouldn't indulge. I think it's important for you. There was a talk given by a church leader who talked about choosing between good things, better things, and best things. And it's not saying that some of the things you choose to do aren't good, because lots of times we spend a bunch of our time, right? 70 to 80% of our time doing good things. The question is, we have to ask ourselves, are there better things or best things that we could be doing? And I think that if we ask ourselves those questions and identify things that are necessary in our lives versus things that are unnecessary, it'll give us a chance to reassess where we're spending our time and what we're doing. And what I can promise you is if you knock out these 5 things: eliminate the unneeded, plan your work, do the things that are within your skill set, know when to multi-thread, reduce your interruptions, what you're going to find is that you have more time and more vacancy available for you to do the things that you love and for spending time with your family and doing all those other wonderful, amazing things that you hope to do. So I hope you have an amazing weekend. I hope you enjoyed this session, this episode of the AgileDad Daily Stand-Up Podcast. As always, we encourage you to invite your friends, invite your neighbors, invite anyone from work, invite your peers. We would love to have them as part of the AgileDad Daily Stand-Up family. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, stay agile, my friends. We got lots of good stuff coming. Take care, and we'll talk again soon. We'll see you on Monday. Have a good one.